I'm Annie.
I'm Olivia.
I'm Jim.
And I'm Max, and we're with the Cotter Chronicles. And we're here with Jim, as he just said. So it's nice to meet you, sir. So my question is, why did you title one of your beautiful pictures out there, Brother Wolf?
That might be my favorite photograph. Thank you. It's been good to me. Hope it's made some difference in people's attitudes by the stare and the gaze and the look. Brother Wolf, the Native Americans. This is a Native American voice that kind of channeled through me when I did that book. It's interesting to me that the Native Americans weren't afraid of wolves, yet they hunted the animals the wolves ate with simple bow and arrows. They didn't have repeating rifles that could go out and shoot deer real easily. They thought the wolf as a brother because they watched how the wolves lived, the wisdom of it. I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what it was, but it's been passed down. All the native tribes in the reservations in Minnesota and throughout North America have always perceived and today describe the wolf as sacred, one of the top animals in the so-called totem pole. And it's because of the way the wolves are. I've lived with wolves for almost 40 years, and I've seen their family makeup is profoundly similar to humans, maybe even higher in some ways. It's their stealth, it's their wisdom, and they don't kill people like people think. That myth is being afraid of the wolf. I don't think I've ever heard a Native American, North American story of any wolves ever being dangerous. So it's a very complex thing, and I could talk all day on the subject, but it's a good question. You hit the right photograph. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
So we have your book here, and I was just wondering if there's a picture in here that particularly really inspires you.
Well, thank you, Annie. That process was a forced march where I made one picture a day, just one click of the shutter for 90 days. And every image in here has I have a feeling and a story about it. This was my home. This is where I lived. I'm starting with the very first photograph the first day. I stood by this scene for an hour or more, waiting for the feeling, the moment. Is this the photograph I need for the day? My heart was pounding. I clicked the shutter, and then I did that for 90 days. I did this not to show a book. I put this project away for 2 years and put it in a drawer. This was for self-healing. Trying to think of a photo. Here's a raven feather. We talked about the wolf being important. The wolves and the ravens are brothers and sisters in their own sense.
I did see a picture out there of a raven.
Wolves and ravens. Raven is the most intelligent creature in Minnesota besides, well, maybe even more than man. I'm looking at these images. They all bring back memories. This is perhaps my favorite. I'll tell you the quick story about it. Remember, one click of the day, not a bunch of pictures, and pick the best one. I live just over this hill. Maybe we can use this photograph later and you can edit it in so you can see which one it is. I think it's day 10. It was sunrise. I canoed out and I saw one of the loons was struggling and floundering in the water, and I didn't understand it, so I went and got it, collected it, and it had a fish hook because they dived to catch fish. It probably saw a minnow on a fish line and wanted to catch it. It hooked in its mouth, and the fish line was wrapped around the bird. And I tied it and let the bird go and stood up with the canoe, and the bird floated off a little bit, and I clicked the shutter, not knowing that I had that moment, but the bird, it was like saying thank you. And I think it's my favorite photograph anyway, but it's a nice little story about giving something but being anthropomorphic. It's a funny word, isn't it? That's putting human qualities in animals' minds. But it's like anthropomorphic, it's saying thank you, Jim. So that's my favorite story and my favorite photograph.
Okay, with the book, I have a picture picked out, and I was wondering if you could tell me the story behind this photograph of the track of the injured wolf.
Oh, yes. Wow, you've been looking at important stories. I have a lake. I'm blessed to have a lake on my property up in where Ely is on the northern Minnesota Canadian border. This is on Judd Lake. I would spend sometimes all day looking for an image and it didn't come to me. There was nothing. It was almost dark. Digital photography. Actually, this is before digital photography, so it's even trickier. It was almost dark, and I was getting scared. I thought, what am I going to shoot? What am I going to shoot? And I had to have a photograph. I'm used to deadlines. I worked for newspapers a good part of my life, and this was really an extreme challenge. I went out on the lake, and I saw wolf tracks, and I looked on at one track, and there was blood in it. Now, I don't know if it was trapped or shot or injured, and I think I had a small tripod with me. It was too dark to photograph without a tripod because it was probably a full second exposure. So I set it up. Just as I was ready to make the picture, a pack of wolves howled fairly nearby. I'll never forget that. I mean, I don't lie about this. I can't lie because it's like cheating at solitaire. This is the only photograph of the day, and that's the memory I have of the wolves howling. Like, we're here. And that's the image that was in the cover of the book, too. But it's symbolic. I think Julia's used this picture for the movie. It's in the film, yes. And I could talk much longer, but there's time watching. There's always time watching. It's just like this project. Chased by the light. And the chaste has another meaning. Chaste can be cleansed. There's two meanings of chaste. Probably spelled different. Just who are the English people here? If something is chaste and cleansed. C-H-A-S-T-E is pure. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, well, yeah. I just really thought that. If I can open it.
I can do this all day. This is where the action is, folks. The story's.
I thought that the picture of the skull was really cool, and I just want to know what was going through your mind when you just looked down and saw that.
Well, that's nature. That's a deer skull, and no doubt wolves had killed it. It might have been a weak or an old, some other animal that was vulnerable. And the bones are melting back into the earth. Everything is recycled. Will all be recycled one way. Atoms, you cannot destroy matter. And this just gets recycled into something else. That's what I think about when I see that. And it's you can see it melting into the moss. And there's a whole story behind that we'll never know.
Yeah.
How many wolves were they? How hungry were they? They survived, and this one didn't. That's the story of nature. That's why the deer are strong. The wolves are there to keep them strong. They evolve as a stronger animal because of it.